I am so excited that in this one we get to talk about the magic more and the spren and the things that I couldn't mention in previous books because that was technically spoilers if you hadn't read the book yet. Mostly. Goodness, the garbage truck is back. Hello, welcome. We're doing the book review for Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson today. This is the third book in the Stormlight archive. I will be trying to do this spoiler free. There will be a section off point for slight spoiler talking, question, thoughts. But if you haven't read at all in the Stormlight archive, I would suggest that you go back and start with my first video for the first book that just breaks down the world, the characters, the main points of it. But this one will be spoiler free, so if you've read the first two but not this one yet, or you've read them and just need a review, this one should be good for that too. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Where does Oathbringer take place? Why do I feel like I need to talk about it? I don't know. Mostly because of one aspect. Where Oathbringer takes place and the whole Stormlight archive takes place on the world of Roshar within the Cosmere. This is a planet of storms, like intense storms. Animals don't hardly have fur. It's so interesting how much a chicken comes up in this. That is interesting. But back to the part about the storms. So there's not really grass. The plant life retracts in on itself. All things we've talked about before. Why to bring this up though is about the high storms. The high storms are this huge devastating thing that rolls across the planet. But it is important force of nature because it is also a bit magical. In this, it pulls the investiture of the world from the spiritual realm because the investiture is the magic throughout all of the Cosmere that is this spiritual kind of essence that comes from this other realm into the physical plane. And the high storms bring this through on the world of Roshar in the form of Stormlight. But the high storms, they're predictable. They've been known before. People build things to protect themselves from high storms. Like the structures will be more secure on the side that the high storms hit from because they always flow in the same direction. This is important because at the end of the last book, the Parshendi army, the Listener army, created the Everstorm. The Everstorm, though, flows in the opposite direction of the high storms, thus creating much more catastrophic effects, as nothing is protected from this, and it doesn't provide stormlight. It's just huge lightning and destruction storm spreading across the world of Roshar in the opposite direction and causing something to happen with the other Parshmen that weren't part of the Listener army. Moving on from that though, is also the places on the world gets expanded in this one as we get to visit different places on Roshar. Like of course there is discovering the Tower of Urithiru and exploring it and how something is kind of wrong with the tower when we first get there to what we see later on in the tower. Then there is Thaylen City, which comes into play very big at the Sanderlanche point of the book. And just getting to see Thaylen City, because this is a port city, they're big in the boats and the sailing. We've seen Thaylens before with the long eyebrows and the things. I like that in Queenfen a lot. And also, we get to go to Kholinar, the capital city of the Alethi. There's another place we get to go through to as well that I did not remember at all happening in this book. I thought it was the next book, but it's really cool. Not that it can be discussed much though, because spoilers. I don't remember what I was saying before the kitten started crying, so let's just start the magic section over maybe? All the worlds of the Cosmere use investiture, which is this spiritual energy that like leaks over into the physical realm, and each planet can use this a little bit differently. On Roshar, this is in the form of Stormlight, which the Knights Radiant, or anybody who's, bonded to it. Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. They can use this though by kind of breathing it in, and then they use the Stormlight to affect the world through surge binding. Now surge binding is affecting the natural forces, and there are 10 different functions, because it's not all of them, it's like just some of them. They affect things though. And there are 10 orders of the Knights Radiant, with each order having control of 2 of them, so thus some of them will share one with one of the other orders. Like how both Shallan and Yasna can use soul casting, that's it. Even though they are 2 different orders, they can both use soul casting because of the overlapping surges there. And each of the surges represent a different control over it. The difference between which order of the knights you are and which type of surge binder you are is with which spren you are bonded with. As with Kaladin and Syl, she is an honor spren. Thus, Kaladin has the surges that I don't remember what they're called right now, but makes him a windrunner. And with Shallan being bonded to Pattern, who's a cryptic, she has the light weaving ability of illusion and soul casting, where she can physically change objects. We found out at the end of the last book as well that how the shard blades were originally formed is from Spren, who are bonded, and once you say a certain ideal, you are able to summon your Spren as a shard blade or any other weapon. Kaladin prefers the spear and is better with the spear, thus Syl can be a shard spear. This also leads into something that I'll just try to talk about in the spoiler section. That way nobody's like, that would be too much of a spoiler, it gives too much away. So we'll just talk about it later in the spoiler section and move on to talking about our characters. Oathbringer is definitely Dalinar's book. He will be the first character you see from, and also his will be the flashback sequences of this one. They start 34 years ago and they work forward until the War at the Shattered Plains begins. I think I said that funny. Dalinar's flashbacks, they help to show exactly what kind of man he was, who the feared Blackthorn was, and it is somebody who is consumed by the thrill, which is this primal urge kind of that overcomes mostly the Alethi, but other people in other battlefields as well, which is where, they see red. They cannot think of anything but battle and blood, and causes them to sometimes go out of control. There's a kitten. He's been relocated, and we move back to Dalinar, and the past really just showcases how far Dalinar has come and how he's changed, but it does also show us that maybe this wasn't entirely his own character growth until the present moments, and you can still see him changing in the present. In the present, Dalinar is having to deal with a lot more political stuff as he is still trying to unite them, and this is more than just the Alethi High Princes, as he must form a coalition kind of all the world leaders. We must move on though to Shallan. She'll be the next one that I think really stands out in the book, as she's going through a lot. At the end of the last book, she accepted, I guess is that the second ideal? I don't know, maybe. She had to come out with a truth that we have seen how she compartmentalizes and puts these things that she doesn't want to think about into the back of her mind. And this horrible thing she said, now she can't put it away. She has to think about it. She has to face it. And she's not handling that very well. It's a very, very difficult time for Shallan. And so you see something else happen as a coping mechanism that really was done brilliantly. And it was a scene that I did not particularly remember, but reading it this time, as soon as I was going through it, I was like, oh my God, this is the beginning of it. Because I know where it's going to lead, since, it's not my first read through, which that was just, it hit a little bit differently knowing how it leads. And it was also a little bit heartbreaking right after that, as you could see things kind of happening. Shallan's light weaving ability, though, she does practice a lot, and it greatly increases into where we are in the battle at the end and how important her part is and what she plays in it. And it's just very, very well done. I liked Shallan's chapters a lot, and how her perspective is and how she did kind of grow, but we also will still have a very big thing to deal with that I know is going to come in the next book. How to say it without spoilers is the question. Kaladin is where you think he would be on this very high point of how he defeated Szeth at the end of the last book. He is still in not that state. It is still kind of the weeping, so we know he gets a little bit more depressed at this point. And from the end of the last book, he set off to be able to go warn his family about the Everstorm. So he's on his way to do that. That was a cute moment. He got to find something, and it brought this spark of joy back into Kaladin a little bit. Unfortunately for Kaladin, he does form an attachment to, we'll call them a secondary Bridge 4 level attachment. Because we know how he is with Bridge 4, and none of the other bridge crews equal up to that. But he has a secondary Bridge 4 attachment, and then another sub, almost, maybe if he'd spent more time with them, thing that would have happened, that will only serve to just shatter him later on. It's very cruel, very, very cruel, but I guess necessary for his own growth. And it allows us to be able to see this other set of characters in a more personified light instead of just humans versus Parshmen. Now we have that. From there, then we shall talk about Vinley, because this is also another thing that will help us be able to humanize the Parshmen, which is a wrong way to put it because they're not humans, but they are humanoids, I suppose. And Vinley, we saw her a bit in the other book. I don't remember if I think we did get interludes from Vinley. And she was very kind of power hungry, knowledge hungry in a way. She wanted to learn, she wanted to grasp at things, she wanted to be in charge. And she's the one that discovered the forms of power, brought about the Everstorm knowledge. We find out where this came from, how these ideas came into her head and what pushed it there. And as Vinley is going through seeing the freed Parshmen, seeing her listener people and how things are now with the Everstorm and with the new spoiler, don't say that. Then there is our sweetheart Adolin, which after what happened at the end of book 2, you would think, okay, maybe he's not such a good person. You can't call him that. But through the book, he just proves you can't hate him. You can't hate Adolin. He's just... The heroes aren't supposed to murder people in hallways and leave them. No, they're not. But just all the things. You can't hate Adolin. And he's surrounded by people with power, like actual Radiance power. And he's okay with it. He's not jealous. He just wants to help in whatever way he can. Really quickly, because I think I've talked too long in the character section, is there are various others, mostly several members of Bridge 4 that get full chapters. And maybe we shouldn't have seen from like all of them. Teft, okay, I get Teft. We've seen from Teft before, and his chapters were showing something that even with being a Radiant, you still have, well, we see that from Kaladin and Shallan as well, but it doesn't heal everything. It doesn't help everything. Is there a defined plot for this one? Maybe. They had found Urithiru at the end of the second book, and now they are exploring it, trying to figure out things, trying to find lost records from the Radiants that would have been supposedly at this city that was where the Radiants were. It was their home base. I don't know what word was trying to come out of my mouth. Maybe headquarters? So there's that. They are trying to make this coalition of monarchs to be able to stand up against the Voidbringer army, convince people that there is a desolation happening, train the Radiants up. Kaladin is off to find his family and warn them, and encounters not quite enemies. Short spoiler section because I'm already afraid that I have talked too long and this video is too long again. Everybody should have already jumped forward now, I hope. First thing would be that I don't remember if we found out Szeth was still alive at the end of the last book. Maybe Niall had come and got him at then. But Szeth is a larger character in this one as he is training with the whatever order that is, whose name I can't think of right now, and just realizing that maybe he doesn't agree with the Herald anymore and that these people don't exactly know what's going on, as he is talking with Nightblood, he calls Sword Demi in this one, and just, yes, and slowly coming to terms that he needs to find something else to believe in because he doesn't agree with Niall just going with the truth of the law is the law and justice, and that's how we do our job, because obviously he was wrong with killing off all the potential Radiants to stop the desolation. And then there is what Hoyd knows. Like, how much does Wit know in advance? Because he was in Kholinar. It's like maybe he just has feelings or something, and he said he was there for a reason. And then you see the end of it when he finds the cryptic that was probably definitely supposed to be Ellikar's. I don't understand exactly why the cryptic couldn't get out of the city just because they were fused there. Why couldn't it just go back to Shadesmar on its own? I don't know. But now Wit is bonded with the cryptic that was going to be Ellikar's, which that was super sad, and reading it the second time didn't make it any less so. I didn't remember about the picture that he had in his hand, and that he's so close. And I'm mad at Kaladin for not moving. And just Kaladin's like, yes, say the words, Ellikar. Get your butt up and help make sure he can finish the words. One more thing for this spoiler section is, did the Radiants know what would happen to their Spren? Like in the Recreants, because we found out what happened with the Recreants. part of me, I don't know, maybe the naive and hopeful part, I really hope that they didn't, because this is a soul bond. And seeing how Syl and Kaladin are, or even Pattern and Shallan and Lift and Wendell even, their odd relationship, I can't see any of them doing that to their Spren willingly. Like Kaladin accidentally, somehow, I'm still not entirely sure how the thing would still happen. Maybe it's because their bond was still so new. And like, 'cause that was like an accident almost when that happened, I feel like. I don't know. I have my own opinions. But I just can't see any of them willingly abandoning their Spren to die like that. So I wonder, the knights back then, they couldn't have known. They couldn't have known that they would be killing their Spren like that. Even knowing where they came from and how that all, like, what the truth of the Dawn chant was and everything. Final thoughts and tallies, the good of the book. Getting to see other cultures and their other places, how they dress and how they act, and how maybe they don't agree with the warlike Alethi or want to be around the warlike Alethi, and see how they do religion differently. Yes, they worship still the heralds, but then the Thalens also have the passions, and the people of Azamir have just their legal system and paperwork. So much paperwork. Then our second point would be getting to see the listener side of things, and how it just makes you not actually root for just Team Human, because it's Team Human. It's just seeing from their eyes, and it's just, yeah. Even the finding out of the thing. Getting, of course, more lore expansion and finding out about the different Spren types and the bonds. And finally, the always wonderful mental health reps. At least I think it's always handled really well done with Shallan, with Teth, and Kaladin. Just seeing that, even what we briefly see of Renarin and the things with him. The mad parts, it's the pacing. Everybody's going to say it's just, it went kind of slow and plodding, and things happened multiple times, more than they needed to be. Even getting the most of Bridge 4 chapters, I didn't feel like we needed that many of that part. Yes, I like the characters, but I don't think it was necessary to have as much. And everybody loves crossovers, yes, but was it necessary to have her that much, to have that much? Could it have helped the pacing? Maybe if that went faster, or if it just wasn't there. Who could say? Overall, the book was almost 5 stars. I think the first time I read it, it was 5 stars. But having the reread, the pacing stands out more, since it's not all new information to where I'm just, oh my gosh, yes, I loves it. No, now I can see it a little bit more, so we're going to say it's a little bit less, but I'll round it up to the 5 stars, because I'm still going to love the series, and it still had important moments and wow moments. And overall, I'm just going to continue the series. Like, I can't wait to read Dawnshard, that'll be the first time, and get on to Rhythm of War. And you can hopefully stay tuned to see that review next month. If you enjoyed this video though, maybe you could check out some of my other ones, and if you're enjoying, subscribe. That way you can come back for all the future videos, including next month's Rhythm of War review. I hope you're having a great day and finding something good to read. Bye!